the first question and answer that I wanted to talk about, and that's do you believe free speech in America is in serious peril and why? And so you said no. I believe we have remarkable means of communicating in this day and age. It was remarkable to witness the total failure of the world of the would-be technocrats, excuse me, to control and shape communication in the last few years. Whenever invisible forces that bind people with values must turn to the hard power of policing minutia, you know a system is suffering strain. When the policing fails, the system is next. I am less concerned about the means of communications being curtailed by hard power and more concerned with what it is that is being freely communicated under the influence of new invisible forces. So we'll just stop there and just uh, briefly talk about what the meaning is behind invisible forces and what do you mean by that?
So, I mean, this is kind of an esoteric answer. I like to say that this isn't culture war, this is cosmic war. And of course, that's just like a strange way of saying that what we're dealing with here is less there are people and there are machines and there are things that are trying to take away our freedoms. It's more things of the spirit. It's things in our own spirits that are being pulled on and that are being influenced, and what could be called, I guess, self-censorship. It means
Mm,
that we ourselves no longer have interest in talking about certain things. We no longer have an interest in the truth. There's a verse in one of the prophets where it says truth has fallen in the streets, and I always found that to be just like a fun
mm,
but also really like sad metaphor where the truth is kind of out there on the streets and people just walk over it and they don't value it. It's fallen down and no one will pick it up. That's something that's not coming because people who want to control you by hard power, by taking away your phone and by monitoring your communications. They have certainly tried. They're going to try again, but we're actually seeing this begin to splinter. And what we saw during COVID, I mean, failed spectacularly.
yeah.
Um, at least in the aftermath. I mean, I'm not discounting or discrediting any kind of suffering that was caused there, but it was a war. It was a war for information, and the masses who want access to the truth, I think, won. But it's then what exactly now are we going to pursue with this freedom? That's always the question, I suppose, with these concepts like liberty and freedom is like, what are you going to do with it once you get it? That's more what I mean by invisible forces, the things that are binding us together, the things that control ourselves and our own sense of what's right and wrong and what's true and false.
Yeah, that is a good point about especially during all the COVID hysteria and how people were getting information one way via the corporate press, like the CNNs and the MSNBCs of the world, and they were going, "Yeah, screw that. I'm going to find some other means of where I can maybe get a different viewpoint."
Yeah.
Or even, and not even just with the news, they were going to a doctor and they said, "Doctor, you should get your COVID vaccine." I was like, I don't know. I'm going to look and listen to another doctor, see what they say about it. So they were doing that.
Yeah.
And so I think in some ways, some people would say that free speech, as what this question is, do you think free speech in America is in serious peril? And you say no. There are people who, conservatives, libertarians, who would probably disagree with that and say, well, I mean, you see people getting banned off of social platforms and everything like that. So they're kind of seeing it in that avenue. So, well, I'm not able to say anything now on Twitter, or I got banned off of Instagram because whatever. I put a picture on there and then Instagram didn't like it or something like that. Would you consider that part of the equation, or is that something that's not like that's a lesser offense?
This is what I mean about policing, right? Whenever, so like, let's just take it at like a societal level and then kind of draw a parallel. If you have a system let's start. If you have a society, as in a group of people where it's high trust, people
Yeah.
have the same values, they kind of share the same interests. There is no violence that is being committed among them. I mean, this is part of the lie of communism, right? Is that we can actually achieve this on this mass scale because it's achievable on a very small scale. I mean, typically most families shouldn't be stealing from each other and, killing each other and whatnot, because okay, you all like live together and it's this small enough circle of trust that you're able to have this high trust system where you don't need a bunch of like policing. You don't need like a system where and look, much of libertarianism is actually based on this, right? That we
Yeah.
don't need police to be telling us what to do about all this stuff. And to a degree, on like a small scale, that's true. And once this starts to scale, once people start to enter into the equation who do not have those values, who are not working towards the same things, you don't have much in common with them in terms of like I mean, it's easy to say life goals, but it is more like civilizational goals. Okay,
Hmm.
you now need to find a system that is going to be policed in order to keep people from killing each other, from kind of breaking out into anarchy. Once the policing starts to fail and see like put like nobody will deny that, oh hey, like I don't want to see porn showing up on my feed all the time. But when policing becomes, I'm going to keep information from you that I believe might be hurtful or harmful information from you. See, now you're policing minutia. Now you're getting into areas where in a higher trust society, people should be allowed to decide for themselves these type of things. They should be able to digest information from different sources. They should be presented with the truth as much as find it, and then decide for themselves in their own mind using their own critical thinking skills. And so a lot of the bannings, a lot of the deplatformings are bad. I mean, we're like, let's make no mistake. Those aren't small things. Those are actually very big things. The demonetizing of people off of places like we're on right now, like YouTube, that's serious business. People's lives are affected by it. It's like rug pulling um, from people who have frankly done business with you and who have made you a lot of money. And now you are turning on them because they said something that might offend the sensibilities of either you or somebody who you're accountable to on the other side of this thinly veiled private public uh, partnership between these large tech corporations and the government. That's what we saw during COVID, and that's all wrong. And that's the type of stuff where I mean, people rose up. People decided we're going to do different things. We are going to build in parallel to this stuff. We're going to find new means of communicating. Elon Musk decided he was going to actually take a chunk out of the Leviathan himself. That's how bad it got, where Musk had to actually go to that sort of length. So I'm not saying that none of these things matter. These things matter a lot, but judging by the response, there's actually quite a lot that people can still do. There's still quite a lot of agency that we have to stand up for ourselves, to find different ways of talking to each other, to find different ways of conducting business. This isn't some kind of totalitarian technocracy yet. In many ways, how easy it was to circumvent that stuff, how easy it was, and I'm not discounting, things like Elon Musk buying Twitter, but like relatively speaking, I mean, no one had to fight a war. Nobody had
Yeah.
to go bomb anybody. No one had to like, you know, that's what the 20th century was, right? If like you had to
Yeah.
resolve something, you had to fight it out. Whereas this was all done relatively peacefully. That still shows quite a bit of leeway, and it frankly shows just how brittle um, that would be totalitarian technocracy is.
Yeah, that's interesting points that you're making. And so when you're talking about Elon Musk, for example, buying Twitter, not only him buying it, as he himself felt like, okay, maybe if I control Twitter, I mean, the whole thing when he was even beginning to do it, there were people flipping out. Like, if Elon Musk is the owner of Twitter, I'm out of here. And I remember the whole like lawsuits and all this other stuff, and it took a few months for it to actually go down. And of course, now he owns Twitter and renamed it X, but I mean, I'm still going to call it Twitter, Elon. I'm sorry. Um, but
Struggling too. Yeah.
yeah. Um, but then another prime example of Twitter, just as we're talking about that, is Alex Jones was off of Twitter for I think about 5 or so years,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
I mean, Elon himself at first was saying, "I am not reinstating Alex because of the whole Saint Hook thing. That's clear and cut. That's it." And then I'm not 100% sure what exactly changed his mind, but then he did tweet out a poll saying, "Hey, do you think Alex Jones should be welcomed back into Twitter?" Majority voted yes, and then so hey, majority voted yes. Now he's back on and tweeting and posting videos, doing what Alex Jones does, and
Yeah.
hey, that's awesome. Kudos to
by
that.
by the fact, I mean, look, you're always going to need men of action. You're always going to need someone to take up the cause.
Yeah.
Because and I think what was just assumed for a long time, that people would just take this kind of creeping totalitarianism as just good. It's ultimately good for society because we want to be safe. Safety is the
Yeah.
biggest thing, and just as long as we're safe, doesn't matter what type of freedom is taken from you, because safety, that's the primary goal here. And that's what underlies all these different attacks on what's really the American idea of freedom,
Hmm.
the freedom to defend yourself. You can own a gun, and if someone comes at you, you can shoot that person. You can use deadly force under some circumstances. There's some people who are like, well, that it's you shouldn't be able to do that because it means that you have a gun, and then that's not safe. You know, it's not safe to have, like, yes, I know it's not safe to have a gun. It's not safe to drive a car. It's not safe to fly an airplane. I mean, there's tons of things that aren't safe. And yes, there are some things that you're going to hear. There's going to be some ideas that you hear on the internet that may not be true, that may point you towards radicalization of one kind or the other. Look at how so many elements of society have adopted all sorts of psychoses based upon social media. Um, so it isn't saying that there's not danger. It's just saying that the the freedoms to decide how you are going to navigate those dangers are more important than safety, because there's been a lot of wrong that's been done under the name of safety. I mean, maybe even
Yeah.
more than what has been done under the name of liberty.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And so one of the things that I don't know if this is what you're getting at, um, but that's kind of how I'm interpreting it. So maybe I'm wrong here, but when you're talking about kind of the like ideas and how everyone's kind of like you're saying, well, even if they're wrong, they're allowed to say it. So that's kind of the whole like what's that expression? The marketplace of ideas. I'm sure you've heard that one before, Andrew. The marketplace of ideas.
Yes.
So as someone who used to consider themselves a libertarian, now kind of consider himself just more of a right winger, I guess. I'm more right wing. I mean, you can't. There are right wing libertarians, but I don't even want to consider myself a libertarian. A lot of things have changed. COVID definitely changed my mind on some of that.
It was crazy how many supposed
Yeah,
libertarians sold out. I was
yeah,
shocked.
yeah. And we don't
Yeah.
have to name institutions, but I think we know which ones we're talking about here. Um, But it really kind of made me realize that, okay, so if there's these apparent libertarians who, I mean, I know they're libertarians, they just don't want to come out with it. They just don't want to, it's like, being gay. I'm in the closet. I'm a closet libertarian. I just don't want to come out yet. I'm afraid or whatever. But then when all this stuff was happening, when all the 2020 things were going on,
Now's the
what
time to come out, guys.
right. Well, what happened? There was
Yeah.
like, oh, we should wear a mask. All right. Like how many, like, I don't know, at the beginning, 90% of the population, there was that 10% or maybe even fewer. I don't know. They're like, this is bullshit. Like, no, screw that. I'm going to live my life how I'm going to live. And yeah, the supposed libertarian said, yeah, just wear a mask. The libertarian case for getting the COVID vaccine. Okay, well, so you're basically saying what everyone else is saying. What is the difference? How am I going to look at that and go, you know what? These libertarians are making a good point. Why would I vote for a libertarian if I might as well just vote for a Democrat or Republican when they're basically saying the exact same thing, pretty much?
Well, so like, yeah, this idea that like, yeah, I mean, when like rubber meets the road, like what,
Yeah.
like who I will always look at people's actions. Like, what did you do when there was real danger? And what did you do in the face of evil is often a big marker. And I mean, yeah, like it was wild. I mean, I'm on the steering committee of this coalition of a bunch of like either vaccines skeptic or just like medical freedom organizations who are from all over the world. A lot of them are former Democrats. I'd like to say that like 2016 was the radicalizing moment for men, and 2020 was the radicalizing moment for women, because a lot of people was like, when you come after a woman's kids, that's just changing the game. When it's saying like, you must take this experimental drug, you must not ask questions, because if you ask questions, you're a dangerous right-wing conspiracy theorist. I mean, eventually those things start to wear off. The insults start to not mean what they used to. Back when we all didn't have such blatant suspension of belief that we were required to place upon ourselves in order to be considered part of polite society. Then when you then start to realize, okay, wait, I'm in the majority here. There's actually millions of people who are with me, rather than, and this is actually quite a small minority of people who are trying to like push this on many others. People's inherent sense of self-determination kicks in at a certain point, I think, for everybody, but especially people who have any framing in like this kind of like Anglo-American, like Western tradition, let's just call it Western Christian tradition, are people who value their independence. And like, it isn't just independence of no one can tell me what to do. It's my independence of being able to decide for myself what it is that I do. And it was encouraging to see how many Democrats were just like not a Democrat anymore. It was encouraging to see how many women were, which of course that's like the Democrats' main voting bloc. We kind of ignore that. It's mostly liberal women who vote Democrat, and that's how they stay in power. But like, seeing how many just had reached their limit, they had, and then there's like all different things about like health and about food and about education, and that which just compounds on like the vaccine stuff, which is again, it's like signs of life. There's like, it isn't so much that the system was kind of working, it was like locking people down. Again, it was these invisible forces that people had told themselves for all this time, I am a moral person, I am a loving person, love is love, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, and I'm not like that Alex Jones, and I'm not like that I'm not like those bad people, I'm not bad like Donald Trump. But then when it's like, Donald Trump is for the vaccine, and like you're
Right.
not.
Yeah.
uh, it just presented so many interesting forks in the road, like mental forks in the road for people, where a lot of the personas got kind of blown up, and like that's great. I think we need more of that. We were kind of reaching this stage of like calcification, right? Where like then 2020 happens and it's just like Pandora's box. It's just like a fragmentation grenade that just
Mhm.
kind of exploded. um, how people even saw themselves, just like how you're describing it.
Yeah.
Again,
The
these are the invisible forces that need to be destroyed, not the hard systems, because frankly the systems are terrible. They don't work.
Yeah, it's like you said when Operation Warp Speed was going on. Man, Donald Trump and his administration, they were going hard at it, and those people who were anti-Trump, they were so anti-Trump, which I guess, which is weird because they were right. You know, it's like, oh, I'm not taking this. No, if Trump is taking that vaccine out and he's putting the public, no, I'm not taking that. And then once Joe Biden came into power, it was like a switch, like a light switch. It's like, oh, you know what? It's been a year. I think it's fine now. We should take it. Oh, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, those are nice people. Yeah, they must not have anything bad or anything like that. It's just, I mean, I don't know.
there's there's like no helping though, where it's like when you realize like how many people just have vested interests in going with one opinion or the other, and whether it's
Yeah,
with Trump, whether it's with the Democrats, whether it's the old guard Republicans, I don't care who it is. Once you know that someone's not being intellectually honest, they lose all they lose all credibility. And
mhm.
the the internet is big enough, you can find enough information places where nobody has a monopoly on a way of looking at something.
Yeah, especially with the internet nowadays. Because maybe back when the internet wasn't a thing, all you had was what is Walter Cronkite saying? Oh, I guess that's it. That's who I'm getting my news from. Is that guy right there?
Yeah.
For the most part, I'm sure there are newspapers and all that stuff, but that was the evening news right there back in the day. Now it's, oh, this person on Twitter, I trust this guy more than what Senator so and so is saying in Kentucky. I don't know, some
Yeah,
Democrat
no,
senator.
it's just because like people like know that, okay, this guy's a politician, he has some kind of interest in saying this. Now,
Yeah,
what we saw of course during COVID was this alliance, this kind of unholy alliance between the media and the government, in many cases. And so that's why places like Medium, places like then Substack, when Medium basically shut down
yeah,
any kind of free dialogue on their platform, people go to Substack, people took to
yeah,
Twitter, people took to Telegram, uh, um, and Rumble, and I mean you just name it. All these places um, started up because um, people realized that they were in cahoots with the government. Rather than speaking truth to power, they were trying to cozy up to power, and that's just kind of like betraying the American way of life. I mean, how we see ourselves. It's that like it's a government for us and by us, um, not one that tries to like control us. And like a company that starts to go in that direction loses the trust ultimately. Facebook still has not recovered. Facebook
mm,
is after 2016 and all that it started to do to sort of change its algorithms, and try to influence like the Irish elections, for instance, um, and messing with the advertising and just all that, um, lost any remaining trust that it had by most of the people who were kind of using it as like a news or an information resource by the time 2020 hit. Because after that it became, I mean, we're literally going to censor links. I mean, dude, the
mm,
whole Hunter Biden thing, they literally
yeah,
were censoring the links in your direct messages. That's how bad it was. And when
mm,
you say that's crazy, it's like 1984, it's like no, it's literally somebody who has a script. Remember when the when like that hacker got into the Twitter backend and was like God admin,
Oh
and like
yeah.
seeing like how all these little it's somebody at a control switch. It was like seeing the Wizard of Oz. You know, I'm the great and powerful Oz. Actually, no, you're just this little man behind the curtain, and I don't have to be part of your little game. I can go somewhere else. I can make my own thing, and like that. I mean, Facebook is Facebook is just basically like a boomer graveyard now, and like that's like a testament I think to yeah, I mean how we're not enslaved yet. Anyway,
Not yet.
have I belabored that point enough. It's not over yet. Don't think that we have lost.
Well, I think some people would say that the way to kind of get away from these select few people that have all this power, and we're not even talking about the president and vice president. We're talking about all, like you were saying, how all these groups and lawmakers and all the people that they talk to kind of be like, hey, you should do this in this bill. Okay, I'll do that for you. Yeah, sure. Those are the people that really have the power, and that's the important distinction here is they have the power. I don't have any power to do. I the only power I really have is to hope and pray that my representative will actually do what I want him to do. And that'll probably happen maybe 1 out of 10 times if I'm lucky. If it's the person that I actually have like some close relation to. Like if it's someone that, okay, they have a D next to their name, I'm probably gonna guess maybe they're probably not gonna do what I want them to do. But if they have an R next to their name, I might have a better chance. But
I
even
may
then,
have a chance at
yeah,
least, right?
you still have to really fight hard. And there's people who just like, you know what? I don't want to do that because I already know this whole thing is a failure. And I totally get that sentiment. However, what I'm trying to get at is the fact that you have to have people that are in power, that if you want something done, you have to have your people in there. You can't just have someone like a Janet Yellen manipulating the banking and all the currency and all that. You have to have someone that you like, put them in there. I don't know how that's going to happen. Whether it is,
Everybody is accountable to somebody. The whole thing about like
yeah,
they're unaccountable, unelected bureaucrats, and I'm like, first of all, everybody is accountable to somebody, and it's
yeah,
just not you. And so
yeah,